And then moving on to Everton, there doesn't seem to have been too much movement on the takeover front lately. There may be stuff happening behind the scenes, I imagine. But is that a bit of a worrying sign that we're not hearing too much, or is it understandable given the issues around the 777 debt?
So there's two aspects to it. But first of all, multiple deals collapsing is unusual and very bad. And there's no real way around that. That should be a big worry, especially where credible people are walking away having done due diligence on the situation, and where the matters that seem to have triggered the walk away are quite significant and don't seem to be easily resolved over the next few weeks. Now, the flip side of that is that there does seem to be continued interest from various parties. Everton are stable from a financial perspective over the next couple of months because they've had TV money, they sold Onana. So from a cash flow perspective, they probably are able to pay the bills for a period. And of course, they have also got themselves out of trouble on a couple of occasions before. So all through last season, they were short of cash. And every time they managed to get 777 to put money in to keep the club viable. And then, of course, at the end of the season, they got Friedkin to put £200 million in to refinance debt that was coming up to its due date. So they have got themselves out of trouble each time they've been in more severe trouble. Now, that said, clearly they need to get on with doing a deal, because as we get into the autumn and winter, cash is going to start to dry up in terms of cash inflows. They're not going to be able to get money in from season tickets because that's already come in. They're not going to be able to get money in from TV because that's already come in. So they'll have limited amounts of match day money coming in. And then on the flip side, lots of money going out because they have all the operating costs of the club. They have, of course, the wage bill, which is big and significant, as it is with all Premier League teams. And then on top of that, they're going to have the bills of paying for the stadium. And it would not be a stretch to think that the constructors of the stadium, I think it's Lang, are going to want payment up front and in advance for any stage payments that are being made to complete the stadium. So they're going to have a cash crunch as we go through September, October, November and December before we get to another Premier League payment, probably, I think it's in early January or late December. But they're going to have to find the cash for that period from somewhere. Laid on top of that, of course, is the fact that deals, even if you find a buyer and agree a deal, it takes, and they get through due diligence, it still takes between 1, 2, 3 months to get approval, even in the best case scenario. So they need to, they'll be well aware, of course. I mean, we're not telling them anything that they already know, but they will need to get on with things. And what will be interesting as we progress through August is what happens with Branthwaite in particular, and maybe Calvert-Lewin as well. But the more concerned they are about cash as we go past the transfer window, the more you will start to see potential transfers out that will bring in some cash, that will bridge the period that they're going to have over the autumn and winter. But we don't know. I mean, you know, there is a worst case scenario for Everton. If they can't find a buyer, then they will have some issues, I think, in the next few months. So they'll either have to sell players, or I mean, frankly, it's going to be difficult to see what the other options will be other than selling the club or selling players, because they are limited now from the way that the balance sheet looks and the amount of debt that they have on there. They are limited to bringing in more debt. It's going to be pretty unlikely that they're going to be able to find somebody to bring in more debt on top of the secured debt that's already there.
And then, so obviously they're still continuing to spend in the transfer market. Made a signing this week. They've been still linked with several players. Considering those potential cash flow issues they might come across later in the year, is it wise for them to continue buying players this month?
Yeah, they are spending, but they are fairly modest spending, modest costs that are going out, particularly on the initial fees and loan fees. So the actual expenditure from a cash flow perspective is pretty limited, but arguably, and look, it's difficult being on the outside and not being close to the fine detail of where their cash position is and where the other buyers are. But I think it's in these sorts of situations you would expect a level of conservatism with the dealings in the transfer market. Now maybe they will say, well, we are being conservative. The players we're signing are relatively low value, sort of 15-20 million pound here or there, and that's not a big deal. But it's a club that's running at a loss and also has clear issues in relation to solvency. So I would say they're being a bit aggressive, but if I was involved, I'd be a little bit more cautious. But the board has better visibility than I have, and may take a different view on risk anyway. We'll have to see. I mean, as I say, things can change quite quickly from looking from the outside. Clearly, if they all of a sudden decide to sell Branthwaite, let's say for £50 million with quite a substantial amount down up front, then that would change our perception of their cash position. Maybe it's more than 50, maybe it's 60, 70, I don't know. But there's not that many buyers. We know that this has been a particularly quiet transfer market. So we know there are not that many buyers that are going to have very, very substantial cash to be able to buy even a player like Branthwaite. So we'll have to see. I mean, as I say, I think if I was advising them right now, I would be looking to be quite cautious.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.